Ja, herzlich willkommen. Energy Live Session heute mit Alec Benjamin und kurz bevor es losgeht, hat sich Alec nochmal bereit erklärt, mit uns ein kleines bisschen zu reden. We're happy that you're in Hamburg and you've just told me that you've already spent 2 days here.
Yeah.
What are your impressions of Hamburg so far?
We got to Hamburg yesterday and just been kind of driving around and meeting some new people and
also doing some promo stuff and I guess if you're on Can you explain how it works as an artist to be on a promo tour? Like, do you just follow everybody's orders and just work?
Kind of just go with the flow. I mean,
yeah.
I try to. Sometimes it's difficult for me because typically, like, I don't really socialize that much. I'm usually like keep to myself, and like meeting new people is something that makes me nervous. So promo trips sometimes for me, even though some people might be like, oh, it's easy, you just talk to some people. But for some reason I find that, mundane social interaction can be like really stressful for me. Yeah.
I feel you, but that's a very honest statement for someone who's up on a stage. But do you still enjoy the communication between audience and you? Yeah,
it's different. And it's, I think being like one-on-one is way more stressful. And I find that like, and sometimes in smaller settings when you're playing for people, because you can look everybody in the eye,
like what's going to happen tonight,
personal.
right? It's just going to be winners and people really obviously wanted to be there, who call the radio station to get these tickets, so they're all going to be very happy to see you.
Also with my fan base, I don't know what I was going to say. Oh wait, if I'm performing a show and people have purchased a ticket to be there to see me, the initial stress of introducing myself does not exist because I already know them and they already know me. So that part doesn't really freak me out. It's just like I feel like there's so many people who are really good at meeting people, and I feel like you don't get to the best parts of me until we already know each other. That's like what
totally get what you mean. But do you also know that you're gonna have to do some meet and greets tonight?
Yeah, no, it makes me nervous.
Really?
But I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but like, it's like all my friends like go out to like bars and clubs to meet people or girls or whatever, and like I'm like, cool, but this is not where I excel. It's like it'd be nice if I could just like have a conversation, but the music is loud and I don't know.
Can you describe which areas are the ones that you excel?
Yeah, well, I mean, I like to just talk about things. I have like a regular conversation with people I'm like pretty good at. Past like the, hey, how are you? Oh, do you come here often? No. But like after that, I think I have interesting things to say. I just want people to give me the benefit of the doubt before they write me off. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Like if you don't like what I have to say, that's fine. But at least give me a chance to say it. And I don't usually get a chance to say it when I meet people for like 20 minutes, Yeah. That's why I've decided now that if I have interviews, I'm just going to say everything that I feel, and I'm going to be really honest with people. Because normally people would be like, are you excited?
It's like, almost like disarming to hear that from an artist.
Well, it's like I just kind of been getting sick of just people be like, well, how do you feel? And I'm like, great.
Yeah. So you're just going to be honest and say, oh, I'm really tired and
I'm nervous.
Nervous, but are you also nervous right before a performance on stage, because this should be your comfort zone although?
Yeah, but it's a different kind of nerve. That kind of nervous is like butterflies in my stomach. The kind of nervous I get when I meet a bunch of new people is different.
Like tonight when you're gonna meet fans?
I would say it's more nervous, and then I would say like meeting people gives me anxiety.
All right.
Which is like one is like more intense.
Even if you know that they're going to be really happy to see you?
Well, like, I don't always know that.
Well, because
there's no way to know
they
that.
Signed up for
you cannot assume that people are going to be excited to see you.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
How do your fans? Do you think your fans are aware of how you feel about meeting them? And
I think if they know my music, then they could probably guess that that's who I am.
That's a very good bridge for what we're going to talk about, narrated for you. narration, I'm not a native speaker, obviously, is a word that I don't necessarily connect with music.
Okay.
Can you explain?
Yeah, that was the point. I think a lot of people don't.
I guess so.
But I don't get into music for the music itself, because like I like music, but I don't. I mean, it's kind of weird to say it, but like, you know, like music. I think music is just a way of communicating like a feeling, and I think that some people use that language for very different purposes. So some people like want to make people dance. That's not really like my goal. You know what I mean? I feel like I want to express like my thoughts and like my ideas and things that I think about, and you know, when I was growing up, I always felt like people weren't listening to me, and I was like, I feel like I have something cool to say. And I could be right or I could be wrong. I'm trying to find out. But like just talking to people and trying to tell them in school, like they weren't interested. But there was one time where I sang at a campfire at summer camp, and all of a sudden everybody listened, and I was like, okay, cool. So if maybe I can just like.
Did you sing or did you just tell a story? All right.
I sang, but then and it was someone else's song. But then I was like, okay, dope. So maybe I can just like sneak my thoughts into these songs, and people will listen.
Yeah,
because no one wants to listen to someone on a soapbox.
I studied English literature, so narration is something that I know from there. Would you say that, in like to a certain degree, you're a writer more than a musician, or what's the process of your songwriting?
Of like a lyricist than I am of like an actual musician. There are so many people who are way better than me at like playing guitar or singing or whatever, but the object of what I'm doing is like to express my thoughts. So
what's first, the lyrics or
the lyrics music? Are first.
Always?
Like at least the concept of the song, like what I want to express in the music comes first for me.
That's interesting.
I had something else to say, but I can't remember what I was going to say.
Can you take us through the process of your songwriting then?
Usually I'll just be sitting around, and then I'll think of something that happened to me, and then I'll be like, okay, that would be cool to talk about. How do I feel about it? And then I figure out what my perspective on it is. So is it good or bad, and so what? And then I will find a word that I think encapsulates, or a title that encapsulates like how I feel, and then I'll start with the title, and that's kind of like my roadmap. I feel like putting songs together for me is kind of like a puzzle. It's like for me, writing songs is like it's like, have you ever done Sudoku?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I have a goal and I know what I want to do, and I have to use all of these puzzle pieces. So the melody is a puzzle piece, the rhythm is a puzzle piece, the lyrics are a puzzle piece. How do I fit them all together to say the thing that I want to say?
I never had an interview where it's been so exciting to listen to someone who's talking about writing songs. So let's get into detail a little bit more.
Okay.
Because I'm really interested in the process of how you decide how you name a title.
Well, I mean, like sometimes
it seems to me that they're like super random, or some producers just decided to find a catchy title. But in your case, it almost seems like a chapter name.
Well, I feel like sometimes even before I have a concept, I'll just find a title that I think is really cool. Like I had this title, so I have a song coming out tomorrow called Must Have Been the Wind, and I thought that's like a nice thing to say. And I was thinking about it for a while, and then I was like, man, what is this from? And I feel like nothing in your mind happens on accident, you know? There's so many things happening in your head that you don't control. Like, do you decide to be hungry?
No,
right? That's like, it's not like you don't choose to eat, like you have to eat. I suppose it's a choice when you eat, right? I
sometimes choose to eat, but that's a different...
Maybe you think you choose to eat. Anyways, so like I feel like sometimes you write something or a word just comes out and you're like, that's cool, I wonder where that came from. Oh, it's random. But I don't think it's random. I just don't think we know where they come from. So I had this title, and then I was like, oh, I know what this means to me. And one day, you know, something happens to you, and I look at this, like, I have like a bunch of titles sitting in my phone, and then something will happen to me, or I remember something that had happened to me, and I look at the titles and I'm like, oh, this title fits perfectly. And so I had known somebody who was struggling with like domestic abuse, and I asked them about like, yo, what's going on, and they didn't want to talk about it. And so oftentimes, like when somebody has been abused or something, they'll have like a scar or whatever, and they'll be like, oh, I fell, you know. And so I wrote a story in this song about somebody who heard something that they thought was somebody getting it, you know, getting into a fight, a physical altercation with the person that they were with. And, you know, I go up and I'm like, hey, you know, what's going on? And she's like, oh, you know, I wish I could tell you about that noise, but it must have been the wind. And I'm like, oh, that fits. And then that's the title of the song.
Yeah.
And that's like the tagline.
Would you say that basically every song is more a story rather than a feeling?
Yeah, well, I think that everything is a feeling, but I think that there's different levels to expressing a feeling, and I think the most effective way to language is flawed. So like, you know, you feel sad, right? But what sad is for you could maybe be different for me. I mean, like, the only way to really know is if like
different degrees of sadness, or?
Well, no, it could be a different thing. Like the only way to know that your sadness and my sadness is that like sometimes like I'll say I'm sad and you say you're sad, and then a scientist will measure your vital signs, and if your vital signs are similar, they'll be like, okay, they must be feeling the same way. But like, you know, like for example, in certain cultures, like there are minor chords that are actually happy, but typically in Western culture, like minor chords are sad. I forgot what I was saying.
You were talking about like
I have
where
AED,
the songs
so
are more story.
Oh yeah,
rather than
okay,
a feeling.
but I think that the best way to communicate a feeling is to tell a story about it. That's why like the Bible and like, you know, all of these parables and things have stuck around for so long, is because it's really difficult. If I tell you this is how I feel, or I say a word to you, it could be confusing, especially with a language barrier, what I'm talking about. But if you know the story that I'm telling, then the message is, you can convey a message more effectively.
Absolutely, it goes for the radio as well. If you tell a story on the radio, it's more. It has more of an impact than if you just.
There's a difference between telling somebody something and showing somebody something, and if you show somebody is like the next level.
So, what do you expect from your tour? I think you're touring from October till the end of November, right? And now that you're being honest, do you enjoy the process of songwriting maybe more than touring?
It depends on where I'm at in the process of songwriting. Sometimes I'm sick of it and I've written too much and I want to stop and I want to tour, and then sometimes I've toured too much and I want to stop and I want to write. It just depends.
All right.
Yeah.
So, like the question is, do you think touring is maybe more of a must do as a musician?
No, because I started writing. No, because you could have an idea, but if you don't tell anybody and it's never received, like what's the point? So sometimes people are like, I struggle with that, because sometimes people are like, oh, it doesn't matter like what other people think, or like if you're happy and it meant a lot to you, then that's all that matters. And it's like, that's not even true though, because it's like, what's the point of going and seeing a sunset if you don't have anyone to share it with? You know what I mean? It's like, what's the point of having these songs if I can't sing them for people? But sometimes I get tired. So I think you can't have one without the other, at least for me. Some people are happy writing and never sharing it, but I wouldn't be writing music if I couldn't share it.
But the sunset argument doesn't count for me, I think, because...
Okay. So you would like to watch the sunset with nobody? Maybe I could join you next time.
Yeah, maybe you're welcome to join, but I feel like that's the same argument with maybe Instagram, for example. If you have a nice moment on holiday,
right?
It's almost like if you don't share it on Instagram, it never happened.
Right. But I don't mean like in a broader perspective. I just mean like, you know, what happens when you have a big accomplishment? Do you call your mom or dad?
Yeah, probably
but
would.
What if you couldn't?
I'd still be proud of myself, I guess.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the difference between us. Maybe that's why I get so depressed sometimes, because I need validation from other people. Maybe that's why I perform.
And that's what you're getting tonight and probably on tour, right?
If I do a good job. If I don't, then I'll be forever chasing.
Happened?
Yeah, it happens all the time. Not every show is good. Most of them I leave being like, man, I wish I could have done this better or whatever. You know?
Do you hear like when you don't hit a note right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and do you feel a reaction in the audience, or
I mean, oftentimes like the audience doesn't really care. It's like more I'm harder on myself, you know. The audience is just like they're able to average it all together, right? So if the sum of their experiences is positive, then it's okay. But I have a unique ability to focus on the one thing that I messed up and let it ruin my whole day.
So you would definitely consider yourself a very self-critical person.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that I think is outstanding. It's your merch.
Okay, cool.
I was on your website, and you probably drew most of the stuff yourself,
I had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, now that I
look at the designs, and I picked a person that I thought would do a great job for the merchandise, but I can't take any credit for the actual designing of the merchandise because I'm not a visual person.
I mean, you're on the way to being, I don't know where, at some point, but I think your merch is right up there. It's incredible.
Let's go.
Well, yeah.
Dope. All right.
But I was asking because I thought you drew the motives yourself.
I did not. No.
But they fit very well.
Oh, well, thank you.
We're looking forward to for tonight.
Me too.
Especially now that we've I don't know, gotten to know you a little bit better. It's been 25 minutes, but we've like, at least I feel like I'm gonna have a very good connection to you on stage.
Okay, cool.
So I'm very impressed by your honesty.
Thanks.
That was fun.
Well, yeah, me too. not because it's just like I'm not impressed by it, but I've enjoyed talking to you. I'm impressed by your questions. I thought they were really thoughtful, and I appreciate that because, it's nice to talk about things to you. I don't know. See, I told you these surface level. Wow, I'm really so bad at it. Now you understand why I talked about all the other things.
Cool. Thanks very much.
Thanks a lot.